Sanbonani Dumelange, and welcome to another episode of the Coming Out podcast. Na Kalina, Kenabusi, Marababa Kulu Dese, Barake the Queen of Pitori. Today, I'm joined by Skim Zozo, Chozawa, James Chomi Jeso. Thank you so much for coming through.
It's great to be here, my sister. You know, it's a pleasure. Always a pleasure to do anything with you and talk to you. So I'm looking forward to the show.
Shout out, Chaz. Shout out. I mean, of course, Chaza, you're a comedian, an award-winning comedian, rather, and you're a journalist.
Yeah, something I try to hide from people as best as I can.
Well, here I am to plug the people.
You're snitching on me, but yeah, go ahead.
And of course, you're also a father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one I cannot hide, unfortunately. A very problematic daughter. So yeah.
What's it like being a father, Chaz? Especially to a young girl.
It's amazing. I think it's the best gift, God can give a person. Being a parent, man, it's really amazing. It's such a shame, there's some kids that have to chase around and, just to try and find a parent. But otherwise, I think maybe it's because we are a new generation, so we're more responsible, more involved in everything. So it makes the journey even more enjoyable. But yeah, I love being a father. That's
really great, Chaz. And it's so unfortunate that, there's some really, really shocking statistics that have just surfaced, right? So, just over 23,000 teenagers got pregnant. Yeah. I mean, this is only between April 2020 and March 2021. Just over 900 of those who are girls between the ages of 10 and 14, have given birth.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, eh? Like, I think when I came across that story, I was like, this is insane. I have to do something about this, And I also, followed the story and, it's like I was speaking to some parents and then all of them, what they could ask each other was that, what are we getting wrong? And these are women because they try to have like an open relationship with their daughters. So, but then they don't understand when these things happen. And they say that, actually, it's not that we don't speak to these girls. We speak to them. At school, the teachers speak to them, But for some reason, we still have teenage pregnancy. What are we not getting right?
Sure.
Who still needs to be, on the other hand, receiving the message, maybe, But it was just insane. I think it's... And not to say to criticize the girls or anything. I just mean it's insane in a sense of like we shouldn't have that that many young people falling pregnant.
Or even one. I feel for me it's one too many. One is just one too many. But Chaza, this whole thing of of course you've got friends. When you speak to men, the stats speak for themselves when it comes to gender-based violence as a whole, teenage pregnancy as a whole, the stats speak for themselves. However, when you speak to guys, when you speak to men in their friendship circles tend to say that they don't know perpetrators. They don't know, and they are not the ones that actually go for young girls. We have terms like after 12 is lunch.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
I've heard that myself, yeah. I think, when I speak to you from an honest place, I would be lying if I say when it comes to gender-based violence, we as men, especially in our social cycles, when it's just us as guys, we are as responsible as we should be. I think we're not as responsible as we should be. We're not calling each other out. We're not, speaking the truth to each other. That's why these things keep happening. I'm pretty sure every guy on this, like, literally any guy you can think of who's matured and is grown, he's probably had conversations where one or two of his friends were saying something, or that actually could be classified as this is wrong. This is you can't actually be making your moves on young girls and stuff. We've sort of. It's almost like we don't have that thing of, I need to check my friends.
Okay.
I need to check these people when they say these things. And that's one of the problems, But
what is the reason, Chaza? What is the reason that men don't call each other out? What is the reason for a guy to have a friend who they know, okay, this guy is actually an abuser? What is the reason that you guys don't actually hold each other accountable? Like, why?
Yeah, I think I think it would be I can't accurately give you an answer of what is the reason behind, but there's just so much more. I feel like, I don't know if we've made it like a casual thing, or we too friendly, we too comfortable, or you're gonna seem like an outsider sometimes when you are the one who's always like high agents all the time. I don't know what is it, because clearly we know that guys can get together and drink together, and the conversations in that space sometimes they go in that direction. You can hear Ryman. Why is someone, and what I'm happy about is that men, especially young men, I'm friends with young men a lot, so they don't promote things like actually being physical in assaulting women, but when it comes to statutory rape and stuff like that, I feel like there's still more that we can do, because guys will, hey, I'm dating this girl, and then they say 2000, hey, 2000, but then 2000, how old is she? You understand? That's where I feel like we need to still solve that problem in terms of physical abuse and whatnot. Our generation, I think, to some extent, the ones that I interact with, they're doing so much better. We just know, we just have that pride of, no, man, you can't be beating around girls. What is that,
Sure.
But then there's also, other, focuses where we can, go into, because those as well can be classified as gender-based violence.
Agreed.
And we're not, sufficiently doing that at the moment.
And I also feel like, because in the first episode of Coming Out, we actually spoke about how lightly we take rape culture, the things that are said just in general, and of course some of the things that men say even to each other, those are things that are actually like, that's where rape culture stems from, So what I want to understand is that how can then, I mean, you're a young man yourself, how can young men like you sort of pass on that information and knowledge? Also, the younger men who come before you, like, okay, we're taking, so just even in speech and perpetuating rape culture.
I think we need to create a lot more awareness. But sometimes when people say, because I've been a journalist for some time, and when we go out and people say we're going to create awareness, I feel like I've heard that for so long. Are we creating awareness, but are the people becoming aware? You understand? When I started my career as a journalist, I was an intern, and then I used to sit with these guys, like they were like 2 decades older than me, and they would casually talk about how, that thing where they go out and party with certain, ladies, and then when they get home, the lady passes out, and then they would talk about how, he had sex with her, or,
that's rape.
And then just, you understand. But then the conversations how they were speaking, it wasn't like they were seeing that what they did is wrong. And at the time I was still so young, I was still coming out of varsity, and I was just listening. And in my, I don't know, young brain, maybe I'm like, I can identify immediately, but that is not, And whenever I said, they didn't even take me seriously. Those guys were like 2 decades older than me. Then I could see sometimes, I think the awareness needs also to go to the right people. But it's insane of the things that we turn a blind eye to, especially us as men. I think as men, we need to do so much more.
Absolutely.
But then what do we do? Isn't that the question that we're supposed to be asking? What is it that we're supposed to be doing? Because I feel like just saying we're creating awareness, it's not
enough. And I also feel like, I'm just this week, very, very unfortunate incident happened, a guy, he stays in a commune, had an argument with the girlfriend. Everyone in the commune can hear what is happening, and it's very unfortunate that it resulted in her death. This guy chopped up her body, put it in a suitcase, 2 suitcases, and went to dump her body. Police raided his house. You understand? And they found her head. Like that is just one of the most heartbreaking things that I've ever heard.
I wouldn't even want to be in that environment to witness the aftermath of something like that. And I don't know,
because I feel like to some extent, how will like awareness? Like that's such a surface level problem. It's just at the surface. But what is it that is enabling these men? Like, what is the root cause of gender-based violence, in your opinion, as a young man, Momzanzi?
I think we need, I think the best person to answer you maybe would be a psychologist. You know, someone who studies the mind and tries to understand why people do the things that they do.
Mara, as MG, that as someone who has had friends who are guys his whole life,
You know,
I mean, what is your opinion on it?
And you know why I say that, ne? Because the people who do these things, they often surprise us. You always like I didn't think Bongan would do something like that. You understand? Like you get like shocked, like you get stunned, because like that's what I'm saying. I can't even say, you know, from the little reading that I've done, sometimes it's psychological, what they've seen, what they've witnessed from their childhood and so on. I can't explain to you the anger that boils a person to the extent that they have to harm someone in such a way. You know, for me, the only little explanation I can give is emotional intelligence, you know, or lack thereof. Because I feel like emotional intelligence is something that's very important. And I feel like, because myself, I'm a very, emotionally intelligent person. No matter how you upset me, how much you cross me, or whatever, there's nothing that pushes me to the point that I have to harm you. You know, there's nothing you can do to propel me to the extent that I have to do some damage to you. You understand? So, and that is being able to control your emotions. Sure. You know, when you're not emotionally intelligent, your emotions get the best of you.
Absolutely.
Now you've raised an axe, then you've chopped someone into pieces, and then now you calm down, your emotions are settling, and then you realize what you've done. I think that's my explanation as far as, I can try to just explain it. I feel like emotional intelligence is something that we take for granted, but it plays a huge role, because emotions sometimes are what make people react.
Sure.
You know, if you don't have good control over your emotions, you'll always get into, crazy situations. I have a friend of mine who, he struggled with that, and I always told him, you have no control over your emotions. So you find yourself like, we get stopped by the police. We were much younger at the time, and he would have like a crazy outburst, and the next thing he gets picked up and they throw him in a van, and I was like, you could have just chilled like me. I remember one time we went out to party with the landlord's daughters, and then when we were out, the police arrested one of the girls. They were just messing around as well, They arrested one of the girls, so we went back home. And when we got home, the landlord was so angry. She didn't even know that it had nothing to do with us, because at that point they went wherever they are, then we were chilling with other people. And then when she came, she was upset, obviously, because she's worried for her daughter. So she started screaming. And this guy, having a lack of emotional intelligence, he starts screaming back. Now the whole thing becomes a fight. You understand? And then I told him after, and then the landlord was like, I want you guys out of my yard. I need you guys to leave. I don't want you here anymore. Even though she later apologized the next morning, because she also failed to control her emotions to some extent. The guy also failed to contain his emotions. So what happens is that when two people who are not controlling their emotions get into something like that, then the whole thing just bursts into this valve of emotions, and no one is actually making a sound decision.
Sure.
So emotional intelligence is something we take for granted. I don't know if we have to teach it. I don't know what we have to do. But if we teach men how to control their emotions, how to deal with that anger that just comes like this, then we can avoid a lot of situations. I think some of the young men or men who are killing women and whatnot, had they been able to control their emotions, they would have reacted better to situations. For instance, not long ago, there was a video trending. I think it was from America, if I'm not mistaken. There's this guy. Basically the video is shot by a CCTV camera.
Okay.
So there's a woman and a man. They're having sex. So, and then as we are watching the video, the actual boyfriend, storms into the room. He is coming with a knife, and when he gets there, starts stabbing the guy who's sleeping with his woman, and the guy pushes him back and he runs. Then the lady, she tries to come to him and say, hey, you can't do this or whatever. Like, there's no sound, but she's trying to stop him from harming that guy. And he turns to her and he stabbed her till she dies. You see, that to me, it says what? Emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
So, because you are in your room or whatever, and then you notice that someone is sleeping with a woman, you lose it. Your emotions overpower your mind.
Oh, yes.
Now, what you do, your reaction is a violent one. You know, maybe you're not even a killer, but when you are not emotionally intelligent or you have not trained yourself to be emotionally intelligent, then you end up doing things like that.
Okay.
So you see, I that's why I say, for me, I feel like emotional intelligence is something that we have to talk about when you talk about how these things happen. Because I feel like to just go and do something like that, what happens after 30 minutes?
It's horrendous. And now you've regretted everything because you
understand.
realize that.
But when you are emotionally intelligent, then you are able to check yourself, to calm yourself, to deal with things in a more peaceful, way. So
Okay. So I have a quick question for you, Chaza. I mean, Mom Zanzimo, we know obviously, like, it should be there, women empowerment. It's something that it should be there. I'm glad it's there, however, do you feel that, the lack of sort of effort or impact in terms of empowering men, of course it's imbalanced, but do you feel that has an impact on what's happening in this country?
Can you just ask the question again so I can understand exactly?
Okay, so perhaps let me give you an example. Take a girl child to work day.
Okay.
Do you understand? Something really, really incredible, but there's no take a boy child to work day. There's so many benefits that come with being a woman, just woman empowerment in general, However, the man, like the male child, is not being empowered at the same
Oh, okay. No, I get you. Yeah.
Impact as to the girl child. Does that play, and what type of role or effect does that have on you as a boy child?
I remember I once did this story at the Freedom Park heritage site. So there was this organization from somewhere in the east of Pretoria. It's run by this gentleman and his wife, and they are focusing on the boy child. And when I was interviewing them, they said that there's too much, not to say it's wrong, but there's too much focus on the girl child. And sometimes they neglect the boy child, and then obviously because of our history and everything, the disadvantages that women go through. But then what about this child?
Absolutely.
You understand? Because this is the child that has to grow also to become a responsible citizen.
And I get that, because it's not to say women empowerment should stop. It should continue. However, it should be at the same level with the men.
Yeah, because when we train them, say for instance at that age, and they're trained to to be more emotionally intelligent, to deal with their emotions, and to express themselves, to speak about their problems. And what I witnessed was actually that those boys, they were talking in ways that the young boys don't normally speak. You understand? They were expressing themselves, and they are being taught that it's okay to cry. As a young boy, imagine, they were taught it's okay to cry, it's okay to speak about everything that is bothering you. And as opposed to how we grew up, we were told that, which basically that means a man is a sheep, does not cry out loud. You understand? So when you see these young boys being prepared like that, immediately you can see if they carry on with this, they are going to become a lot more emotionally intelligent, because they were taught from an early age. I think boys, there also needs to be an equal focus on them, because here the goal is not to advance the other and neglect the other, but to get to have an equilibrium, basically. We need to have boys that from an early age, they know that, putting your hands on a woman, that's insane. I would never do something like that. You understand?
And even any sort of situation should not resort to violence, period.
And I think for me, I feel like I was just born this way. Maybe it's because my parents are priests, or I've always been a bit of I'm a friendly guy, a bit of a softie. I've never laid a hand on any woman ever in my life. I feel if someone was to come and say I assaulted a woman, I would be shocked. Like, what are you talking about? That would sound like insane. You understand? Even because I would never even hit a guy. I'm not that kind of a person. You understand? But then not everyone is wired that way from an early age. Some people realize too late, what I used to do is wrong. I have this cousin of mine. There was a time when we were growing up in Ivory Park, just outside Tembisa and Midrand. when we were growing up, there was an era where it became fashionable for boys to smack girls.
Shame.
You know, and I think it was like because girls were flirting with so many other guys, and they were just like do the stupid things. And I've never been a person of cliques, so I was always, now I was friends with those, those guys who loved.
And your cousin was a part of
yeah.
these
So
guys.
my cousin was a part of the guys, and I remember one time he was telling me about how he smacked this girl, and like, hey, I'm sharp at your papa. I'm like, and then when like you celebrate something like that, and then he probably didn't even take me seriously. But now the man that he's become with age, maturity, he would never do something like that.
So with that said, can abusers be rehabilitated? Is that something that you feel like is feasible? Is that possible?
I definitely believe it can happen. And I say this because as a journalist, we go through to a lot of events where the speakers, the founders, the leaders, the people who are molding young men to become responsible are people that could not be seen as role models, but today they've changed, everything. Okay. So I definitely believe so.
Okay. Now let's get into solutions. Charles, Ole Mjita Wakokasi, a young boy, how does this get passed on? How does this information and this knowledge, basic knowledge, because to abuse a woman and to lay a hand on a woman should never be a solution. But how do you enforce that kind of education from an early age, especially for young boys?
I think home is very important, as parents, we need to stop this thing of thinking that teachers have to teach our kids, everything or a majority of what they learn. Kids learn a lot from their parents. If I just believe me, I could be wrong. I don't have a son, but I know that when the time comes, that boy, by the time he turns 8, 9, he'll already know violence is just not the way, because he will never get to see me, attack his mother or anything like that. Even when you conduct yourself, I'm raising a daughter. I don't put my hands on her, and I don't think I'll ever do something like that, because I don't want her to think it's okay for a man to put his hands on her. Understand? So you take it for granted when you start beating your woman or your daughter, and then the next thing she thinks that is okay.
Sure.
Understand? So she must just know, when I tell her no man should ever put your hands on you, that is a deal breaker. Like, she's going to believe it, because from an early age, I've prepared her to believe that, you have to tell your own children, I don't beat your mother. Why should you go outside for another man or another boy to beat you? It doesn't make sense. You understand? So we have to teach them at home, and then we also have to be role models to those kids as well who don't have, father figures. We have to play a positive role, and I think also we need to, look at what are some of the things that make it difficult for men to lead properly in society. Things like alcohol abuse, drug addiction. Everyone has a story about how alcohol abuse has led to gender-based violence. Drug addiction. I grew up, seeing these things happen. My dad owns 2 properties in Ivory Park. One is rental property. You'd go there, and then there's issue, this guy there in the rain, it's just the one room, and then he just beat up his lady and whatnot. The next thing, there's another one. It's like, it's normalized sometimes, it was almost like, okay, so like it was like these things happen, so to listen, much like the one you're speaking about, that lady and a boy and a guy had an argument, and then she ended up dying. And it's those kind of situations where the other rooms, they can hear that guy there is beating his woman, but then they just think, it's gonna end. He's just beating her up, and that's what they do. They're fighting, and then after that, it's going to be fine. They're going to be okay again. And that probably comes from experience. Experience teaches us that these things happen. They fight, and then they fix things. They fight, they fix things. They get physical, they fix things. But then, what about the days when someone dies? That's why we have to stop even, that moment where the guy raises his hands. I feel like that's why we have to tackle this thing. So there's so much more, and also some of the things or the values that we teach in our communities, they become a problem later. You are taught to mind your own business. You are taught not to involve yourselves in the matters of 2 people. And then what happens when you're minding your own business and you're not involving yourself in the matters of 2 people who actually are fighting just next door?
Sure.
You don't know if one is going to pick up a knife and stab the other.
Oh.
You understand? So, but those are values that you learn. So we are taught certain values, and then as you grow up, they impact how we react to certain situations. And to this day, I'm not going to lie, I'm still afraid to involve myself in matters of two people because of how I was brought up. That was a value that I was taught, that when two people are fighting, you don't just go and, you know, and it happens in our society. I'm pretty sure you know stories, the guys, the crew, they know something like that, whereby when a couple is fighting, you don't just jump immediately and say, hey, you guys cannot be fighting, you know. We usually listen and let them have their thing or do whatever. But then, you know, it's because we were taught this thing.
Sure.
You know, what about the time when the lady's going to be killed? You understand? So
it's very tricky. It's very tricky because I'm also all about, you know me, I'm all about the root problem. You understand? I don't like to look at problems at the surface level, you know, because I feel like there's a very, very serious problem that we need to solve in our society where we deal with the root problem of gender-based violence is not something we should be dealing with in the first place.
You know, understand? We should be, like, it's costing us money. People don't actually know that gender-based violence is costing the government money. Money that could be used to develop infrastructure, money that could be used to create employment. Right now, the Department of Public Infrastructure, led by Minister Patricia DeLille, they're spending money on billboards. They put in billboards, or they put one not long ago outside Chomi prison. They went to Mamelodi and set up billboards outside 3 police stations just to, you know, advise men against gender-based violence, you know, and femicide. And then that costs money. And then this woman that you beat up, or you know, she has to go to hospital. That costs the government money.
Absolutely.
You know, the police, as soon as they have to attend to these cases, that is resources being spent. That's fuel that's being spent. You understand? You are taking away a police officer who could be somewhere doing something else because you can't control your emotions. You are laying your hands on your woman. You understand? So these things, they cost us so much than people think. It's like the situation of alcohol, and they say under lockdown, why are they taking away alcohol? Because what they don't see, all these, you know, companies that, you know, like the manufacturers of alcohol products, and when they say, no, we want alcohol back, alcohol, you know, creates this much employment, and, you know, it creates like 13 billion or something rands in revenue and whatnot. But then how much does it cost the Department of Health? I once had a conversation with Popo Maja, who's a spokesperson of the Department of Health, like, no, actually it costs us a lot of money, because once you open alcohol, the people fill up in hospitals. You understand how much money is going to be spent? Do you think, you know, about things like road accident fund, how much money they're going to spend because people got, you know, drunk and they ended up in accident? So everything costs us money as a people, you know. So the things like gender-based violence, we take them for granted because we think about them as just a physical assault, but there's so much more.
It's a ripple effect to many.
You understand?
I get you. But yeah, Chaza, I just hope that we can get to a place, you know, where even men are confident in calling each other out. Yeah,
that would be lovely.
I think, in your friendship groups, because I mean, those perpetrators are friends of someone. Why are the friends not telling them and holding them accountable? So I really, really do hope that we can reach that.
That would be wonderful, Jose. You know, I am someone who believes that the next generation of men is always better than the previous one. You know, when we were growing up, you know, our fathers used to leave our mothers in Limpopo in the villages and come to Gauteng, you know, where they had like women and they did all kind of crazy things. And by the time they went home, back in the villages of Limpopo, they're too old. They come there and then they just retire. They buy a bakkie. They live a few years and then they die. The next thing, the lady doesn't live long for some health problems or things like that, you know. But then if you look at the generation of men, our older brothers who came after them, they went to Gauteng, they took their wives. I'm not going to leave my wife there. You understand? So, and then after that, they were still, some of them, you know, a bit violent and whatnot. They're still badly cultured when it comes to, you know, disciplining a woman, which shouldn't even be it's something that exists. But then if you look at our generation, you understand? Like I would feel ashamed if I have to beat you. Like, dude, I look at you, if you're my woman, you're not my child. Why should I discipline you with violence? You understand? I don't even have to discipline you
in the first place.
You understand? So, and then the generation of young men that are coming after us, they're going to be so much better. And you can see it with small things. If you look at how my older brother is 50. You know, he probably gets home and just sit like this. And his wife is going to make food or this. And then I'm the generation that I'm going to help my lady. She has a career as well. We both go to work. So she's going to cook, I'm going to do something else. You understand? So we keep getting better as a generation of men. And at the very same time, what I like is that simultaneously, the women also become better. Opportunities, you guys now are doing amazing things. You know, women are pushing, you know, boundaries, and that's amazing as well. You know, I think with time, we keep getting better as society. And I just hope, you know, it happens soon enough when it comes to gender-based violence.
I really, really, really hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. But Chaza, it's been really dope having this conversation, you know. It's been really cool picking your brain and also really just understanding it from a male's perspective or a man's perspective, rather.
No,
you know?
Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you so much.
To always speak to you.
Shout out. Award-winning comedian and, of course, seasoned journalist Chomi Jeso James. I tend to forget that.
Yeah, I'm glad you don't remember my surname, because I don't. You know, I call myself Chomi Jeso.
Why,
because I'm a journalist, you know, and I've been a journalist for quite some time. Okay. So what I didn't want is for people to try and search me as the comedian and then come across my journalism content. You know, you understand? So I was like, okay, what can I call myself? James, what do I know about James? I don't read the Bible a lot, though. To be honest, I don't read the Bible. So
much for being a
But I'm a Christian. I just mean, like, I've never made time to study the Bible. But I've heard that James was, I don't know if a friend or a brother of Jesus. I think someone said one of the disciples. So I was like, okay, James Chomi Jeso. So James was around Jesus, you know, cycle.
Okay.
Like, oh, I'm gonna call myself James Chomi Jeso.
Oh, okay.
That's how it came about.
No, schema na le Jeso.
No, it doesn't.
And
at the time, I didn't even know, like, I'd go on and win an award and what. I just know I wanted to do comedy, but I wanted to separate, because when I do something, I focus. I don't do something and then quit midway. So like, I'm gonna go through with the whole thing.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Shout out, man. Shout out. Really also looking forward to seeing the young girl when she grows up to be...
Oh, no. My daughter, you are not putting a hand on her. Like, unless you're some guy who's, you know, unable to contain his emotions, you know. But by the time she's a young lady, by the time she's your age, she will already know, you know, no man should ever, under any circumstance, lay his hands on her.
And I hope her generation of men also understand that it is absolutely abnormal to lay a hand on anyone, first and foremost, and especially a woman. So thank you so much, Charles. It's been great chatting to you.
God bless you, madam.
Shout out. And of course, you can follow him everywhere. It is at Chomi Jeso on all social media platforms. But it's been great. Interact with us. Use the hashtag coming out GBV. And this conversation has to continue. It's a pandemic in itself, everywhere in the world, and of course also in our country, Momzanzi. But let's do this again, same time, same place next week, right here on GBV Talk Radio, and of course on social media as well, and of course on gbvtalkradio.co.za, and right here on our YouTube channel. But nonetheless, Kalina, Pitori.